Hello there friends and welcome. For today's BG3 guide we have a very fun and quite unique build, a Poisoner Dual Wielder Melee Assassin. You'll be all about poison damage with multiple dual wielded attacks, with up to triple poison damage stacks per hit, each capable of individually poisoning the enemy for a very nasty debuff, while also being directly healed at the same time. This way whatever remains alive will be either severely crippled or outright dead. Later you'll even have the ability to make area of effect melee attacks all capable of very high poison damage, and while most of the fun poison boosting gear only comes online at the second act plus, you'll still be quite competent from the earlier parts of the game as well, especially Act 1. So without further ado, let us get into our dual wielding assassin poisoner build, first with character creation. For race, well, it's always going to be the classic package for melee characters, after all you are dual wielding. Such as Wood Half-Elf or Wood Elf for higher movement, after all you have to reach the enemies first to poison and attack them. Githyanki for extra skills, Half-Orc for more powerful criticals. The Dwarf race and the Duergar sub-race can also really help this build, thematically they fit, and Duergar has one of the most unique race abilities. Later at level 5+, you get to become invisible at will, which can help an assassin type of character. For class, I decided to go with Ranger, will be dual wielding, and this way we have access to, well, a second attack way earlier than, let's say, Rogue with Assassin. Plus Ranger will provide you with some nice spells, and we do need concentration effects so that we can properly proc all of our extra poison damage on hit later on. For favorite enemy, I like Keeper of the Veil just so you get the protection from evil and good concentration spell, which will come in handy later on. But you can also go with Ranger Knight for heavy armor proficiency. I just don't think it's important for this build. After all, the best armors for tanking aren't heavy when you have such high dexterity. For Natural Explorer, as always, be Stamer just for the Raven familiar pet, which can help blind enemies. For your stats, dexterity of course is our most important one. Everything we want scales from this: attack chance, damage, initiative, armor class, even some nice skills. Strength on the other hand is dumpable. The same for intelligence. Then you can start with, let's say, 16 constitution for extra tanking power. We do have the points to spare after all. And either 14 wisdom and 10 charisma if you want some higher DC on a few ranger abilities, but they don't matter that much when you're just dual wielding melee weapons. What I mean is you can also go with 14 charisma instead, just so that your character can also have decent enough chances of making the most important dialogue persuasion checks. And speaking about skills, as always the Guild Artisan background is really good for insight and persuasion, the two most used skills in the game. For dialogue of course, and you can then further specialize into whatever you want. Perception can always help, and you can even go with stealth for a classic assassin. Don't forget you can also change the background for something else you want, like Urchin, which will provide you with sleight of hand proficiency for trap disarming and lockpicking. It's just that I usually have Astarion for that. For the second level you have access to your ranger spells, ideally Long Strider because you can cast it an infinite amount of times out of battle and everyone can use more movement speed, including yourself. Hunter's Mark can also help, but mostly early because it does cost a bonus action, correct? Which means it clashes with your offhand attack when dual wielding. For the fighting style, 2-weapon fighting of course. For level 3, any other spells you want, Speak with Animals can be nice as a ranger and for flavor. Plus, let's say Enhanced Leap. For your subclass you have two options here. My preferred pick earlier in the game is Gloomstalker, because the bonuses are rather good. Dread Ambusher increases your initiative, so you won't need the alert feat to always act first before enemies, even higher movement speed during the first turn of combat, and also an additional attack with extra damage. Yes, it's only for the first turn, but the Alpha Strike, well, it's what really matters in this game. Besides that, you also have Hunter. It is not just for a bow ranger, by the way. It's just that the best unique Hunter ability only comes at level 11, right? Which lets you make area of effect attacks for all of your melee strikes. So that's AoE poison. It can be fun and effective, but like I said, it comes rather late, so I'd rather just respec your character fully into a hunter once you reach that point, and I'll give you a way of doing that with the build progression. For the earlier parts of the game, definitely Gloomstalker. Then for level 4 we get to select a feat. Unfortunately, both Sharpshooter and also Great Weapon Master won't work when you are dual wielding melee. It's kinda less damage per strike, but we have poison and other sources. Anyways, I'd say you have two options now, ability improvement and dexterity, because it's the most important stat for us. Or you can also go with Savage Attacker first, for higher damage on average. I'd rather the dexterity bonus now, however. Dual wielder won't be necessary because all the weapons you'll be dual wielding can be dual wielded by default without this feat. Level 5 is when we get the second attack per action, which is why I vastly prefer starting as a ranger, assassin, than an actual rogue. And for the second level spell, anything you want as well. Pass Without a Trace can help for stealth checks, Spike Growth for damage, and that's pretty much it. Level 6 onwards is when I would recommend you multiclass, in which case, either 3 levels of Fighter for Action Surge and the Fighter subclass for higher criticals, or 3 levels of Rogue now, which is what I'll be doing because I think it fits the build better. We are an Assassin Poisoner after all. Level 7 is just some extra Rogue abilities as bonus actions. And level 8 is what really matters, of course, because it's when we get to pick our Rogue subclass. Now, Assassin can help a lot, it's very thematic, but I just don't think it's as strong for this build as Thief. Because the extra bonus action is really that good. After all, it means an extra offhand attack when dual wielding per every single turn. Assassin is mostly bonuses for the first turn of battle, and we already have that from Gloomstalker Ranger. But hey, you can go with it if you want as well. At level 9, you might as well remain a rogue now, just for the extra feat, and get started into Fighter. Or delay the extra feat for later, with 4 levels of Fighter. For the feat, definitely Savage Attacker, because at this point we have so many different sources of extra damage being applied per hit from gear and buffs, and they will all get re-rolled individually for higher damage on average, including our triple poison stacks. Level 10 onwards is time for Fighter, however. For the fighting style, you might as well pick defense because we already have 2 weapon fighting. Then Action Surge at level 11, always amazing. And lastly, for level 12, without a doubt, Champion for even higher critical range. Now, as I said, you can also make this character into a full Hunter Ranger, starting from level 11, so let's get into that now. Of course, when you reach level 11, if you want to fully respec, pick Hunter, starting from level 3, then Heartbreaker for the extra attack. Level 4 is the same, ability improvement, dexterity. Level 5, let's say Pass Without a Trace. For level 6, any other favored enemy you want, depending on what other skills you want, proficiency such as Arcana, History, or Religion. And for the second Natural Explorer ability, while Poison is very thematic for this build, Fire is much better because enemies don't tend to poison you. On the other hand, fire damage is very common. For level 7, any other spell, and multi-attack defense. It doesn't matter that much, but you have to pick something here. At level 8 we have an early feat, so let's go for Savage Attacker already. For a level 3 spell at level 9, Conjure Barrage. You can also wield a bow with this build, after all you are high dexterity. Any other favored enemy at level 10, and well, you might as well pick Poison now. But level 11 is when we at last get the extremely powerful Hunter Ranger unique Whirlwind Attack ability, which lets you attack all enemies around you as an area of effect. Without any restrictions, it's actually only limited by how many actions you have per attack. For this character, well, higher than 6. Anyways, we still have an extra level and also an extra feat by virtue of being a pure ranger. You can actually go with anything you want here now, including even dual wielder or defensive duelist for higher AC if you want, or another ability improvement of choice. Alright, now let us cover gear for our Assassin Poisoner build. For the helmet slot early on, during Act 1, as always, the Haste Helm for higher movement speed. For the second act, however, definitely Covert Cowl, it really fits this build, thematically wise, and is quite powerful. Just remember, you cannot be directly next to a light source to get the extra critical hit chance boost, which means you should be careful of having someone cast the light cantrip spell on a character you'll be close to, as that will block you from getting the bonus. For Act 3, however, as always, Saravox Horn Helmet for higher critical range. After all, we don't have as many damage boosts as a two-handed or ranged dual-wielding build, therefore it helps you have as high criticals. For cloaks, for once we will have a very unique cloak, the Derivation Cloak. Whenever you poison a foe, you'll also get to heal yourself for 1d4 hit points. Notice that it's not poison damage, it's actually poisoning the enemy with the status effect, and we'll have a source of doing that on all attacks anyways. This cloak is Act 2 only. For the first act you can go with whatever you want. For armor, medium armors are the best, because we have such high dexterity, especially the armor of agility for Act 3, which is the armor with the highest AC possible. This way you can have quite decent armor class, without having to bother with tanking abilities and so on. For Act 1 you can truly go with whatever you want, but for the second act, that is when you start finally getting the unlimited dexterity cap armors, such as the U1T Scale Mail, which you later upgrade into the armor of agility. For gloves we also have another unique choice, the Poisoner's Gloves. This is what lets you poison enemies on every single hit, because whenever you deal poison damage, and we have a constant source of that, the enemy has to make a saving throw or become actually poisoned, which is what will proc the Derivation Cloak effect. It's not the actual poison damage. It's just that the enemy can resist and the DC isn't that high, so you might prefer to just go with another glove that increases damage, such as Dark Justiciar for higher necrotic damage, also found at the second act, just like Poisoner's Gloves, or later Hell Dusk of course for fire damage on hit. For Act 1, however, always the gloves of the Growling Underdog, because free advantage is just too good to pass. Boot options don't really matter, I have the evasive shoes here just for higher AC. For the amulet, for once, Broodmother's Revenge is actually very thematic for our build, because we're all about poison damage. This is also the earliest of all the poison damage gear you can find in the game, as early as Act 1. The damage is actually 1d4 poison and requires you to be healed first to be applied, but you can just have Shadowheart, use Healing Word as a bonus action even before battle to proc this, and of course it will combine with the Derivation Cloak for automatic procs. Just remember that this effect does not appear to stack with, for example, the action poisons you can coat your weapon with. They just get replaced. But well, Broodmother's is pretty much permanent, the other poisons are consumables. And as far as rings, just the classic package for even higher damage on hit, such as the Caustic Band found as early as Act 1, Acid is also quite thematic for this build I think. You can also go with the Callous Glow ring, but because it will clash with the Covert Cowl as it requires an enemy to be illuminated, there's always Strange Conduit for higher psychic damage on hit, found as early as Act 1 just like Caustic Band, plus, while it requires you to concentrate on a spell, you have many sources of that, like I said, Protection from Evil and Good as early as level 1 for example, or even Hunter's Mark. Now what about the Poisoner's Ring? It is unique and has the Virulent Venom ability. The thing is, well, the enemy can save against this, it's only once per short rest, and it costs a full action. I just don't think it's worth it, in my humble opinion at least, but you can go with it if you want. Now let us cover weapons and quick slots. For weapons, we'll be going with two very unique ones, the Thorn Blade. Whenever you are concentrating, your melee weapon attacks will deal an additional 1d4 poison damage, just like the Broodmother's Revenge Talisman, except to stack. Amusingly enough, while you can only get this at the second act by buying it from the main merchant at the Last Light Inn, you should be able to buy two of them at once, as the merchant will replenish his inventory after resting. And yes, the effect will stack, which is why we have triple poison damage per hit, double from the Thorn Blaze when dual wielded, and the extra one from Broodmother's Revenge or whatever poison you coat your weapon with. These are actually scimitars, but they are light and finessable weapons, so you can dual wield them just fine, without any other feat investment. For the first act, however, well, Knife of the Undermountain King as always for higher criticals, plus I'm rather fond of the Short Sword of First Blood, just for extra damage when striking enemies at full health. For the second act plus, however, definitely dual wield the Thorn Blades. And for the ranged weapon, well, as always, during Act 3, that shot for higher criticals, or just the bow of +1 initiative during Act 1 and 2. And when it comes to consumables, like I said, you have access to poisons, but they kinda clash with Broodmother's Revenge. But most importantly, as always, the Elixir of Bloodlust for even more attacks per action. Well, alright friends, so this was it from my Dual Wielder Poisoner build. If you found this guide useful as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and also consider becoming a channel member if you can. I truly appreciate your support. Thank you for watching and see you next time, friends.